Hello, my name is Bendrat, and since I'm one of the organizers of this conference, I would like to use this opportunity and welcome you all to this event. I do hope you'll enjoy it. Today I would like to talk about The Angel from the 1991 drama Angels in America, and it's two adaptations, one for the television by HBO and one for the theater. First for London National Theatre and then for Broadway. When Meryl Streep was giving her speech after she won the 2004 Emmy Award for lead actress in a miniseries for her multiple roles in HBO Angels in America, she saved the best for last and thanked Tony Kushner. She called the author of the original 1991 drama and 2003 screenplay the bravest thing in the world. She also made a reference to the autobiographical elements in Kushner's drama about AIDS in 1980s New York by describing him as a writer who sits alone in the room, works out his grief, his rage, his imagination, and he makes a work of art that then transforms the world with the truth, because that's all we want. That's all we need. Streep's award in the context of this paper carries a lot of significance. First of all, the two of many characters she impersonated in the film, Joe's mother Hannah and Ethel Rosenberg, the woman convicted and executed in 1953 for spying on behalf of the Soviet Union, exemplified, on the one hand, the transformation at multiple levels, and on the other, the consequence of the lack of closure which hinders the new beginning. On top of that, however, was the fact that Streep's characters represented the human and the real, who seemingly captivated the viewers and the critics with the veracity of the story they told with words through their suggestive life narratives. There are lots of true-to-life qualities in Streep's performance, just to mention a few scenes, when she was selling the house, or the scene in the park, or the whole Rosenberg plot. It's really worth watching. But why did I say that the veracity of the deeply human experience plays out in the context of this particular award? The answer lies in the fact that Meryl Streep was not the only nominee for the title of the Best Lead Actress in the same miniseries. Not only does this indicate the complexity of the story in Angels in America, where two female performances were deemed so significant that they were put on a par. What this award in a way legitimized was the tacit conviction that for humans to believe means to relate. Meryl Streep's character's veracity might have been appreciated because her story was believable and relatable. This stood in contrast to the character represented by the other contestant to the title, Emma Thompson. Apart from playing the role of Prior Walter's nurse, Sister Ella Chapter, Thompson will undoubtedly go down in the history of television for the brave performance as a titular angel. She ascended from heaven to convince the humans to stop moving, which was the only way to bring God, fascinated with human mobility, back to his heavenly kingdom. In the broader spectrum, the angel symbolizes judgment on American society and the chance to become pure again. The story is set in the 1980s at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and it shows how physical and psychological disruptions caused by illness and long overdue coming out tear apart loving relationships. The angel has chosen Prior Walter, a 30-year-old New Yorker with AIDS, to become a prophet. After crashing through his ceiling, the angel hands Prior a book with steel pages and wants him to proclaim the message that humans must stop migrating, moving, and progressing. Only this will make God return to heaven. Eventually, Prior refuses the prophecy, but is given a blessing which miraculously prolongs his life. In the epilogue, Prior extends this blessing to the audience, addressing them directly with the following words. This disease will be the end of many of us, but not nearly all, and the dead will be commemorated and will struggle on with the living. And we are not going away. We won't die secret deaths anymore. The world only spins forward. We will be citizens. The time has come. Bye for now. You are fabulous creatures, each and every one, and I bless you. More life. The great work begins. I have quoted this last passage from the play, from the film as well, because I believe that indirectly, in a subliminal way, it reveals quite a lot about the angel, about her failed mission, and about the symbolism she was imbued with. Undoubtedly, the angel stands for transcendence, both in the story world and in the real life. And this is the notion of transcendence and its visual representation on stage and on TV that I would like to focus on today. Transcendence is usually defined as experience which goes past normal limits, so necessarily it puts a human in the center. I would like to reverse this logic and look at transcendence through the lens of Karen Barad's notion of intra-action. The question I ask today is whether we can enlarge the scope of the elements, the entities, or in general, the participants in the process of transcendence. Karen Barad, a physicist and philosopher, in 2007 put forward a theory of intra-action inspired by Niels Bohr quantum theory. Niels is on the right on the slide. Quantum mechanics describes the physical properties of nature, the scale of atoms and subatomic particles. What lies at the core of the quantum mystery is the notion of unpredictability. As Richard Webb writes in The New Scientist, at the basic level, quantum physics predicts very strange things about how matter works that are completely at odds with how things seem to work in the real world. Quantum particles can behave like particles located in a single place, or they can act like waves distributed all over space or in several places at once. How they appear seems to depend on how we choose to measure them, and before we measure, they seem to have no definite properties at all, leading us to a fundamental conundrum about the nature of basic reality. The probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics, which defies the deterministic theories, has had a huge impact on contemporary philosophy. The uncertainty principle implies that we are not able to predict the value of quantity with arbitrary certainty, even if all initial conditions are specified. According to Bohr and his Copenhagen interpretation, the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics counters the classical idea of causality. There must be room for experimentation due to the complementary nature of evidence obtained under different experimental situations. Going further to the more recent many worlds interpretation called MWI from 1960s, the theory holds that all the possibilities described by quantum theory occur simultaneously in a multiverse composed of independent parallel universes. We do not observe the universe as a whole, but we only see one parallel universe at a time. Karen Barad takes up this approach to explain her notion of interaction. This term replaces interaction, which implies the existence of pre-established entities that enter into action with each other. According to Barad, it is through specific agential interactions that the boundaries and properties of the components of phenomena become determinate and that particular concepts, that is, particular material articulations of the world, become meaningful. If reality is composed of things in phenomena, this implies the ongoing flow of agency. In other words, the apparatus used to make the observation and the observer become integral parts of the phenomenon, thus questioning the classical notion of objectivity. If every element is involved in the process of creation, there are no external agents. Interaction entails exchanges, reconfigurations, entanglements, and re-articulations of the world. Barad rounds it off by indicating the basic unit of interpretation. The primary semantic units are not words, but material discursive practices through which on-take and semantic boundaries are constituted. This dynamism is agency. Agency is not an attribute, but the ongoing reconfiguring of the world. The universe is genteel interactivity in its becoming. Therefore, acting on Barad's assumption that apparatus are the conditions of possibility for determinate boundaries and properties of objects and meanings of embodied concepts within the phenomenon, I put forward a claim that in visual arts, such as theater and film, the apparatus is not so much for measuring, but rather for creating effects. In Angels in America, the figuration of apparatus involved the complex issue how to materialize the angel from the fairly modest stage directions provided by Tony Kushner, which read, "She has magnificent steel gray wings." Kushner was the proponent of a pared-down style of presentation, with minimal scenery and no blackouts. However, there was one exception which involved the materialization of the transcendence, which including the appearance of the angel. The moments of magic, explains Kushner in Playwright's Notes, are to be fully realized as bits of wonderful theatrical illusion, which means it's okay if the wires show, and maybe it's good that they do, but the magic should at the same time be thoroughly amazing. The renouncement of the static nature of the apparatus allows for the extended analysis of the process I would call the angel in the making. What has emerged from my analysis of this process with respect to the theatrical and the televised productions was the observation that the spectacularity of the figure of the angel was inversely proportionate to the technical possibilities offered by a given medium. In other words, the theatrical representations of the angel were far more elaborate, technically advanced, and therefore spectacular than a relatively plain and toned-down impersonation by Emma Thompson in the HBO production, which you can see here in the photographs. Now, take a look at the completely different stylistics of the theatrical production of the angel, more demonic than angelic, more elaborate, and definitely showing the apparatus. The apparatus also as the wings, but also take a look at the people who hold the wings. With the help of a movement consultant, those 6 performers, professional dancers, became the angel shadows who make the titular angel fly, fight, or twitch a wing in annoyance, as well as move sets and props during the 2-part, 8-hour play. One of the angel shadows, for instance, was an element of Ballet Hispanic, Cirque du Soleil, and Broadway fiddler on the roof. So as you can tell, they are really professional dancers. Now, in this photograph taken by Annie Leibovitz for Vogue, taken in 2018, you can see the angel in full scope wearing the American flag. So there might be a cognitive dissonance why the omnipotent medium of television has determined to provide us with a predictable and a safe image of the angel, why the theater, with all its technical constraints, has decided to push the scene to its limits to show much more than the magnificent steel gray wings. And while the time constraint of this presentation is just too strict to discuss this question in detail, my contribution to this understanding of this reverse logic of productions and its consequences for the reception of the play versus the televised version would be to embed it in Barad's posthumanist understanding of discursive practices. Defined by Barad as specific material reconfigurings of the world through which the determination of boundaries, properties, and meanings is differentially enacted, the stage and the film discursive practice of creating the visual representation of the angel extends further than the endowment of the transcendent figure with a bodily shape. The choices made by respective production teams, from directors to stage designers and special effects specialists, can be read as ongoing genteel interactions of the world through which specific determinacies along with complementary indeterminacies are enacted within the phenomena produced. Is then the intention of the stage designer what really matters? In the light of Barad's theory, the initial design is but one active component, while the meaning is composed of what each individual literally inputs and outputs while interacting with all the aspects of the ontological performance of the world through the figure of the angel. For the interaction to be comprehended, we must discard the conviction that intelligibility is a human-dependent characteristic. And I really wanted to illustrate this claim with a video made at London National Theatre during the preparation time of what it meant for the team to fly the angel. And I really wish that you could see it, but unfortunately the PowerPoint does not allow me to record this. But here you can take a look at the link, and also if you Google uh, Angels in America Flying the Angel, you will go to that short clip, and I do recommend, because this is just amazing. So I only managed to get some screenshots of flying the angel, the whole really elaborate process, because getting the angel to fly was through counterweighting. The actors on stage were in harnesses attached to semi-invisible lines, which are then attached to crew members off stage, climb up and down the ladders. The wings have special effects, they have dynamism, and they are the emotional amplifier. So what you can see in this fragment, which I transcribed from this film, whereas within automated flying, you generally see a body being lifted at a reasonably steady pace, you don't get the dynamism you can get with a human on the other end of the line. The wings are emotional amplifier for her. They need to have a sense of life. We use their sort of breath and their source of intention and muscularity to try and help bring those to life. These are the underlying principles about how you bring something that's essentially inanimate to life. Thus, if we again return to Emmy Awards, my initial claim is likely to gain a new perspective. I have implied that Meryl Streep's winning performance might have benefited from her impersonation of a human character as opposed to Emma Thompson's angelic and elusive one. Grounded in Barad's claim that language has been granted too much power, the fact is that the responsiveness to the phenomena relies too heavily on a predictable track of human-centered interpretation. Perhaps the appearance of the angel should be approached more broadly, beyond its cause and effect attachment to prior Walter as the recipient of the prophecy and the only, or at least primary reason for the angel's ascendance. Thus my goal was to indicate an alternative path for interpreting the significance of the angel's theatrical and televised embodiments, seemingly or logically incompatible with the media affordances. All this analysis was meant to engage us into a constructive and creative dialogue with Karen Barad's notion of knowledge construction through intra-action. After all, knowing is not about seeing from above or outside, or even seeing from a prosthetically enhanced human body. Knowing is a matter of interacting. Knowing entails specific practices through which the world is differentially articulated and accounted for. In some instances, non-humans, even beings without brains, emerge as partaking in the world's active engagement in practices of knowing. Knowing entails differential responsiveness and accountability as part of network of performances. Knowing is not a bounded or closed practice, but an ongoing performance of the world. Thank you so much for your attention.